Air Force, so this is my least favorite way to shoot a video, but I've been traveling, and so I wanted to share a devotion with you for today, for day 9 of our first of the year fast, where we want to prioritize Jesus at the beginning of 2025 so that we can see him move all throughout 2025. So I'm just going to share with you a couple minutes. There's a well-known verse, and I think it builds us into an understanding of fasting, because when we're fasting and when we're surrendering something, when we're giving anything up in the Christian walk, we're usually not giving something up and receiving something immediately. When you say no to whatever it is you're saying no to, food, sweets, sugar, social media, caffeine, whatever it is that you're giving up during this first of the year fast, it's so easy, especially as the days go on and on, right? We're on day 9 of this thing. And so it's easy to say, well, I'm not seeing any differences. I'm not seeing any changes. I'm not seeing anything that has shifted or adjusted. And I think just like working out, you go to the gym, you know what you get first when you work out real hard? You don't get the body that you wanted. You don't get the weight loss that you wanted. You get sore. And I think there's this real beautiful principle about sustainable and valuable growth. And that is that when we pay for things at the beginning, we will always have the opportunity to reap from the investment in the end. But if we want to get something quick, we will probably be settling for less than we could have had. And so there's this idea in Hebrews 11. And so I'm going to connect that with a verse that you already know, most of you. Hebrews 11:1 says, Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the assurance of things not seen. It is the substance of things hoped for and the assurance of things not seen. Most of us know that definition of faith from the scriptures. But what I want you to see is this. There is a principle, and because I'd spoken at a church last night, so I'm actually traveling today, and so that's why I'm doing this from the car. But one of the things that I said as I was kind of refining and trying to understand this text and the way that I wanted to speak it, I think it was important to me anyway to hear it this way. That one of the ways that faith works, that has to work, is this: that we have to live in assurance of more than we have experienced. We have to live in assurance of more than we have experienced as Christians, which means this. That doesn't mean that you have to take these crazy leaps of faith. That doesn't mean that you have to do everything right all the time. What it means is that we live convinced that God is better than what we have seen. And so we allow the goodness of the God that we know we will eventually see to affect the quality of the behavior in the present moment that we are in. I'm not waiting until the end to see everything God's going to do before I start living as if God is that kind of God. And I think that's what it means to live in the substance of things hoped for and the assurance of things not seen. So there's this author named Brian Zahnd who has this quote that I've loved for a long time, and I want to read it to you, and hopefully this helps you a little bit, because if we live as if God has already answered our prayers, we will find out that our character and our behavior and our joy and our love and our kindness are always greater than we could have if we were waiting on the answers that God is going to bring. I hope that makes sense. Like, if I'm promised $500 at the end of my drive today, I'm going to drive differently, right? So now some of you might drive way too fast. You're going to think, man, I got to put the pedal to the metal. But that's not wise either. But I'm going to drive knowing that there's a reward at the end of this drive. I'm not going to drive just thinking, I'm going back to the same old stuff, going back to the same old life, same old stuff. Like, I'm going back with anticipation because I know what is waiting on me. So my mood, my character, my mindset is different. I'm going to treat the people in a drive-through differently. I'm going to treat the people at a gas station differently, because at the end of my journey, there's something beautiful that has been promised to me. I think in the Christian life, when we lose sight of the fact that God is still the one who answers prayer, that God is still the one who heals our sickness, that God is the one who calms the chaos of our mind, even before we've seen it, even before all the answers of God have come through, we have this great assurance that he is that God and that we will see those answers. And because of that, we live differently. We do not become servants to the tyranny of the situations that we are in, but instead we become worshipers of the God who holds the future that we're headed into. And so Brian Zahnd said this, all that to set up this quote. He said, Christianity is a confession. It is not an explanation. We will attempt to explain what we legitimately can explain. But, now here's the beautiful part, but we will always confess more than we can explain. We will always confess more than we can explain. We will always be those people who in the middle of difficulty say, you know what? Things are going wrong around me, but I'm blessed. You know what? I don't see it yet, but man, there's a sunrise coming. You know what? I don't see it yet, but I know that there's a payday. We used to sing a song in the church called There's a Payday Someday. I know in my life right now that there is a beautiful eternity, that there is fullness of healing, that there is fullness of joy, that there is fullness of grace, and that has to come back into the present. That future reality of the faithfulness of God has to come back into the present. So as you're fasting, let me just share this with you. In the difficulty and in the moments of craving and in the moments when you're like, man, I'm just going to give this thing up, please know what you're doing has a great reward on the other side of doing it. In the early moments after the workout, you feel the soreness, you feel the fatigue, you feel the pain. But if you continue walking, if you do not grow weary in well-doing, you will encounter the reward that has been promised to you. Let this sustain you for the next couple of days. We're almost there. We've almost finished our first 12-day fast. We've almost started this year 1 day per month, committing every month to God, saying, God, I want to see you work. I want to see you move. This is what we're doing. Today is day 9. We're praying over September. We're saying, God, this fall, I want to see you work and move in my life, in my family, in my church, in my home, at school, at my job, like I've never seen you work before. And I want to give you this day of fasting, consecrating this day to say, I'm giving now in discomfort what I hope to celebrate in blessing in a few months. This is the beauty and the power of what we have in front of us. I love you. Pray traveling mercies over me when you see this, because I'll probably still be driving. I am praying for you today. Can't wait for Sunday. Looking forward to it. I love you all. Bless you, Fair Forest.